Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here to some more Fan Fridays, and we finally have the legend Heavy Slam Wailord for Fan Fridays. Now, to clear up any negativity about the moveset, the idea is that Heavy Slam does the same damage as Waterfall under most circumstances because Wailord is just so heavy, and most Pokemon generally aren't heavy. So Waterfall and Heavy Slam have the same amount of damage, which is why I don't understand why people would call it bad. Now, the idea of the setup is also just your generic, you Chesto Resto into the Curse and then Amnesia. That way you get insane stats, and you eventually just kind of turn around and body everything. So it's just a setup Pokemon. The idea is to try to make Wailord have something unusual and unexpected. Because, of course it's going to do Waterfall, but that's the easy way out. Heavy Slam, same amount of damage. So we can also use that, and it prevents you from getting water absorbed. So if you go through all the hassle of getting +6 attack defense, +6 on the special defense, and then a water absorbed Pokemon just comes in and stalls you, not as fun. So at least with this, you have some other damage options that don't completely mitigate and just remove all of the setup you've done so far. Let's go and watch it on the battle spot. So really, in theory, it's not bad at all. There's nothing incorrect about the Heavy Slam Wailord, and we're going to actually see it do something which proves that it's not useless. So yeah, fun will happen. And I guess we're going to be here for a while. I'm going to go and take a peek at the bottom screen. Let's go and actually add game capture bottom, and then we're going to see the amount of turns. Oh, it's only 10 turns. What? There's no way. Unless it's just Curse and there's no reason to go for the Amnesia setup. Looks like the Wailord is going to tear it up a lot sooner than I expected. And the opponent has a full shiny team, of course. Let's go and watch the Oblivious also helps, because that's going to stop from taunts and shenanigans as you try to set up. So we're going to see the speed drop, attack go up, and then the defense go up. And Porygon 2 might have some threat with that discharge, some kind of electric type hit. But let's see the Wailord just tank that one up like it's nothing. And Wailord has the Amnesia, so now it's going to be taking half the damage. So with this setup, you can just go double Amnesia, get a couple curses in there, then the game's just going to end. So Porygon 2 has the Toxic, and that's not going to work against the Chesto Resto. So I think the biggest play about using any kind of tanky Pokemon that do Curse Amnesia, Stockpile, or anything like that that have the built-in Sustain or Chesto Resto is finding the right ranges for it. Because once you have 2 Amnesia and you're at ×3 on your special defense, sometimes it's worth going for the ×4, other times it's really not, because when you're taking that little damage, you don't really need to waste a turn, and then you can take the Curse, and then also you can just kind of anticipate the damage from there. That Toxic will eventually build up, but it's not going to be the worst thing. Then eventually you just want to turn around with the max attack possible, and then 2-shot everything, or at least get some 1-shots as well. That Wailord, with that 90 on the attack, isn't the strongest Pokemon, but still does solid amounts of damage. So it can work. It has pros and cons to it. Also, an idea behind the Heavy Slam Wailord specifically is that there are a lot of Fairy type Pokemon, and if Fairy becomes more popular in the meta, then it is more beneficial to have something like the Steel typing to just hit more super effectives on all kinds of different Pokemon. So yeah, that's going to be the rest right there. And Porygon 2 going for the Toxic once again, even knowing that the Wailord can remove it at will. And even if another Pokemon comes in, even if there's more anything, Wailord, that's another idea behind the rest on the setup. Do you see how much damage is being done with the discharge? You see how much curse and defense setups are happening? So it's effectively going to be the same thing, to where even if Wailord is asleep for a couple turns, it's just going to shrug it off, wake up, do damage, set up more, or rest, and it doesn't have to worry at all. So now Absol comes in after the opponent tries to get the Toxic down. Pressure kind of sucks because you only have one offensive move. That's going to be the same regardless. And then we're just going to see more setup from the Curse right there on the Wailord. And eventually, it's just going to go max attack and then win. Something tells me that since it's only 10 turns and we're already on turn 9, the opponent's just going to forfeit or something. Maybe we'll see this Mega Absol get one shot at some point. That would be pretty cool. But at least showing how the Heavy Slam mechanics play out on the Wailord. Absol with the Swords Dance, though. It wants to take those stats. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Absol doesn't have the most absurd damage, but Heavy Slam from the Wailord on the setup turn. And what else do you need to see? The system works. anyone that disagrees, they obviously don't understand how Pokemon... Like, that's the thing. It's like, anyone that calls that a bad moveset just does not understand Pokemon. They're simple enough to think, oh, stab automatically makes it better. But I've shown on Pokemon like the Mega Medicham, especially when you're playing around with high base powers, I think it's very important knowledge to understand that, yeah, like even a resisted hit from like a high jump kick can still, if it's a stab high jump kick resisted hit, it can still do more damage than a neutral non-stab hit or a neutral less base power move. So there's a lot of just advantages right there that you need to understand about playing Pokemon. And let's go and check out some more battles from the Heavy Slam Wailord. But there is one thing that I do want to make clear, that I'm not saying that this is the only way of running the Wailord. There are obvious pros and cons to the Heavy Slam versus the Waterfall. That Waterfall does have 120 base power against other Pokemon that Heavy Slam does not. But at +6, it kind of doesn't matter anyways. Again, it's just kind of like something surprising, something that's just not going to be standard and just a completely bleh moveset. And for comparison, Smogon, which is where a lot of like the Heavy Slam Wailord hate is coming from, they don't even have a Wailord moveset for Pokemon Sun and Moon. And even if you go back to Pokemon X and Y, there's really nothing to this. It's substitute Aqua Ring with leftovers, protect and scald. So sub protect with Aqua Ring, and then you try to sub stall while just burning all of your opponent's Pokemon. It's a very boring generic set that kind of doesn't work because there's better just Pokemon for stalling and scalding as well. And again, if they have a water absorb Pokemon, what are you going to do? You get to do nothing against this. And they don't even acknowledge like these specs Wailord as well, because you have like specs Water Spout. Unfortunately, with Wailord being slow, it does take damage, which means the Water Spout ends up doing less damage, and that's really it. So yeah, the recommendation from the community that says Heavy Slam Wailord is bad is mostly just PP stall with like 0 win condition. At least this Wailord, it has a win condition. It can do some really silly stuff, and let's go and watch it happen once again. So, pretty much Pokemon community is just silly a lot of the time. What else is there to say? Let's go and watch how this setup is going to work, though. As we see, Primarina is the lead, and Primarina with that Fairy typing actually going to be neutrally hit by the Heavy Slam, but resisted with the Waterfall. So that's just Pokemon. No one Pokemon is perfect and beats out every single other Pokemon. You know, there's nothing that stops everything, and we're going to see Wailord from the moon eat the Moonblast from the Primarina as Amnesia comes in. And something tells me that's either just like modest specs to do that much damage. If it isn't specs, then that's okay. It's not specs because it's switching over to the Hyper Voice. So no damage boosting, which I would have expected out of the Primarina, because we saw the Discharge super effective hit from the Porygon 2 do about the same. But overall, this is how the Wailord works. If you do not have anything that hits it super effective, which is kind of true of any Pokemon and any tank, is just not going to work out. That you just eventually set up so much Amnesia, you can set up Curse against physical attackers, and then they don't do damage to you. That as a huge hit point balloon Pokemon like the Wailord is, it's actually less dense than air when you look at size versus its weight. Fun Wailord trivia for you guys. It still gets to just kind of gain a lot of effective tankiness over other Pokemon, and then it can sleep whenever after gaining all the stats that it needs. I really do like this idea, the double Curse, or the double Amnesia into Cursing. Because again, like you don't, unless you're like barely surviving, or you know they have like a super insane, super effective hit coming your way soon, then that's kind of the only reason why you would need a +6. So Moonblast, doing okay damage, but not really enough. Wailord sets up another Curse, and then you get the free turn Chesto Resto. And even without that, again, like you're asleep for a couple turns, you wake up and you have 2 turns to act, if not more, depending on how tanky you are and how much damage the opponent is putting out. But Primarina Moonblast, that's kind of like average damage that you would expect from an opponent. So Wailord just reading the damage numbers, playing it close with the Primarina, and it looks like we're going to be just fine in the end. And that's going to be Primarina with the Moonblast. So this should be the rest turn. Moonblast is not going to be able to do that much. And depends if the opponent is expecting the rest. Like when you're just committing to that damage, not trying to switch out or play around the Wailord any, maybe they don't understand the sustain. I don't know. But now, Wailord is going to be taking like 27 damage off these Moonblasts for the rest of the game. Unless there's a crit. And that's kind of like the only thing that could really make it different. So, Sparkling Aria comes in. It's resisted regardless, not very effective, just not very effective on not very effective, and that is going to be the heavy slam after all of that curse setup, and it will be enough to KO. So yeah, it's base powers, it's just stats. Heavy Slam Wailord OP, GG. Incineroar comes in. This is kind of like where, oh, Waterfall now has a super effective hit, and the Heavy Slam does not, but let's see how much damage we can do to a above average bulk Pokemon like the Incineroar. Regardless, the idea is we're doing more damage than they are doing to us, and unless they're like a stall Pokemon, then it gets kind of awkward because we have rest, so technically we PP stall a little better just from behind the rest, and then also having like turns to waste on the Amnesia and the Curse, which have a pretty decent amount of PP as well. But as long as we do more damage than we take, the set works. Even resisted hit from bulk Pokemon, Incineroar is confused, and if it hits itself in confusion, it's going to be fine. If it doesn't, well, Darkest Lariat actually hits through the defense boosting. So that's awkward, but Wailord still tanks it up, gets the Heavy Slam, and that will be enough to KO the Incineroar. And what's the last Pokemon that's just going to get dunked right now? Hariyama. So Hariyama, interesting choice. If you want to style on the opponent, you could just rest for the safety, wait for a couple of close combats. Hariyama comes in with a close combat against all those defenses. Wailord tanks the ferocious hit pretty well, and that is going to be defense dropping, as Wailord just takes the Heavy Slam anyways. I'd imagine that with Hariyama being a bulkier Pokemon, yeah, it's not going to be absurdly destroyed by that. But Hariyama comes in with another close combat. Is that going to be enough to take the Wailord down? Yes, it is. So that's really like not Wailord being bad. That's just not wanting to draw out the battle, because now you just bring in a Pokemon and you do that. You bring in Ditto and then you close combat the Hariyama with minus defenses. I'd imagine Scarf Imposter for the shenanigans, and that works out pretty well in the end. So yeah, I like that team. I also like having Ditto, just in case they stat over the Wailord, or if it is something that's strong enough to take out a setup Wailord, then you want a Ditto. You want to copy that and then destroy them with their own strategy almost. And there we go, guys. So hope y'all enjoyed the battle. Heavy Slam Wailord is fine. Anyone that tells, like, anyone else can just piss off at that point. So hope you guys enjoyed the battle. Hope y'all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.